What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is August 13th of 2018. Well, folks, today we've got a lot of exciting and important things to discuss here on the Daily Update. First and foremost, as always, we're going to be taking a look at market valuations as well as doing some technical analysis on the market leaders. But outside of this as well, we've got some key headlines to discuss in both crypto and traditional markets. For crypto markets, we're going to be taking a look into an issue that might be in regards to Bitmain's IPO, and that is its large exposure to Bitcoin Cash. This has been something that a few people have been talking about for quite some time, and could be a very serious liability as they step into going public on exchanges. And along with that as well, we're going to be talking in traditional markets about the crash of the Turkish lira, how it is depreciating in value to a very high degree comparative to other world reserve currencies, and what might have caused this and what to look for as we go towards the future. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the update, everyone, and start off by taking a look over crypto markets. Well, over the past few hours, really over the past 2 or 3 days, we have seen some resilience. As we talked about in the last daily update, Bitcoin was looking to hold at 6,000. We saw that. We have not seen a blow through 6,000 yet, and in fact have gone up a few $100s here. Had about an 8% jump the other day in Bitcoin's price, helping a lot of the altcoins feel the love for the short period of time that we saw it. And so far, price has held at these levels. We're still holding around the upper $6,400 range for Bitcoin, and that's going to really be the determiner as to whether or not this market is at its bottom, and if we're ready to make new highs and possibly see at least a similar run up like we did back in 2014, where Bitcoin retraced back up to the highs about 50%. So we can see here, going across the market, definitely things are looking a little more optimistic than they have before, but still a few players in the red. We still haven't had a blowout move just yet to get confident on markets. If we come over here to market cap, we can see we've been holding around $200 billion. Again, this might be the new base of support. We can see that we held over here around $200 billion. This really cuts out all of the craziness through the latter of November and December and January for cryptocurrencies, which I think is healthy. It's important to cut out the kind of parabolic run up and solidify again what you've had through the previous part of the year, the much more of the healthier uptrend. But again, I understand no one wants to see prices go down, but again, when I say it's healthy, it's good to see when we can build support at reasonable levels for price. And as we're talking about support here, as Bitcoin holds among 6,000 and altcoins still either depreciate or just barely scrap by near Bitcoin in regards to price momentum comparative to the dollar, we are seeing Bitcoin dominance rise. We're slightly above 50%, around 51% at the moment, and I think you could probably have another percentage point or two until other coins come down to their previous lows. So we're at 19% right now, and the lows were down here at around 17%. So with, again, other coins continuing to deplete, with Ethereum and some of the larger protocols still needing to deplete a little bit of their gains, who knows, we not only could see a few percentage points here, but we could see something around the upper band of the 50% range towards 60%, as we saw back here before the rally in altcoins going into the latter part of December and January. So who knows, we might be able to see that. We might keep open the idea that Bitcoin gets a strong bounce here, that altcoins might not be able to keep up, but that is going to be dependent on the idea of Bitcoin holding here at this level. We can see here that we've had 3 days where most of the price action, it's quite interesting here. We've been seeing, again, the same old crazy spikes here on the charts here, where we're seeing bark trends where prices come down for a few hours, come right back up. You know, it's a little bit shaky. We're not seeing any serious standard volume coming through the market. It's these random spurs of big orders and big sell side orders as well. At the moment, what we're looking to see is if Bitcoin can get above and make the 200-hour its line of support. This is always what I look for before we get really a serious breakout to the upside. It solidifies that there's no key levels of resistance here that is holding back Bitcoin, and it's much more likely that we're going to get a breakout rather than a breakdown. Now, we could very well still see it. Again, if we see a test below 6,000, I think that's going to signal at this point, now that we've at least tested it, that this is probably going to go much lower if we do see a test down below 6,000. And now that the RSI isn't oversold in this case, it might provide enough room for that. So we're keeping an eye on the indicators, keeping an eye on the longs and the shorts here on Bitfinex, seeing where the market is going at the moment. Shorts have not gotten more confident, which is exciting to see. We haven't seen the rally like we saw back here in April before we get the big blowout. So they're playing cautious at these levels. They're seeing if Bitcoin is really going to maintain here. I think you'll see the short spike if we step below 6,000, but Until then, I don't think at the moment, either side is too confident here. Again, everyone's got their opinions. I know some of you guys love Bitcoin and think crypto is going to go to the moon next week, and some of you think it's going to go to $4,000 or $5,000. But again, we're not changing our opinion here until we see a trend reversal. If we see a break below 6,000, or if we see a massive breakout. Right now, we're in the neutral zone. We're testing that support. 6,000 is held so far as we've hoped, and hopefully it will continue to do so. The one thing I do want to point out on Bitcoin, though, that is exciting me, and this is something that I recommend. You want to make sure you get the right exchange here. I recommend exchanges like Coinbase that are retail volume for the most part. Interestingly enough, take a look at this. Take a look at the weekly here, how we're starting to finally see a change in trend for volume on Coinbase. So we had a bottom out here just a few weeks ago of around 40,000 Bitcoin being traded on Coinbase within a week. Some of the lowest levels of volume, definitely lower than our peak back here at around 336,000 Bitcoin, almost 1/10 of what volume used to be back on Coinbase if we were to get that roughed out around 400,000. And now we've done double that last week. So if we can continue to maintain this momentum, I think you're only going to see volume past last week's volume and continue this trend if we get a breakout above this line of resistance. So that's the key thing we're looking for here. We're looking to see if this will have a breakout over the next day or so. And we need a big one. We need what we've seen in the past, a day or two where we can see Bitcoin's price go up about $1,000 and really get over $7,000. That's the key point here that we want to see, well above $7,000. But with the RSI relatively low, we might have a chance at this. So anyways, I've rambled on about Bitcoin. Again, looking for a confirmed change in trend. Right now we're in the neutral zone. We're at 6,000. Going on to talk about some of these larger protocols. Again, I've been talking about it for a while, guys. I think Ethereum has a little bit of a ways to go. We need to see, I don't know why my chart was flipping out there. I think we need to see Ethereum come back down towards around 4 million Satoshis. Probably not exactly on the even, but we need to touch near this line. And this goes again with a lot of other protocols and larger players. XRP, BTC. I think Ripple at least needs to come back down towards around 35 to 40,000 Satoshis. If we go across here to talk about Bitcoin Cash, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin Cash later on, and there's a very, very interesting thing we need to talk about in regards to its ties to Bitmain. Right now on the TA side of things, again, it's down towards 9 million Satoshis. As a trader, I feel a little more comfortable, but with some of the fundamental concerns that I have after reading this article, I'm going to steer away from it for quite some time, even though it is reading oversold in the RSI, and generally speaking, altcoins are relatively oversold at this moment. I don't think Bitcoin Cash really falls into that, though. I think we've got a ways to go. Going on to EOS here. EOS continuing to deplete downwards. Again, I've been talking about this coming down towards around the lows, around 55,000 Satoshis. So we'll have to see if it'll come back down to that range again. We saw support over here, and it was previous resistance beforehand. So let's see if it can make its support there, and along with that as well. So going on here to talk about a few more, we got Litecoin. Litecoin continuing to deplete. Again, Litecoin I feel is going to come back down towards around 800,000 Satoshis. I've been set on that for a while. After we broke through 1 million Satoshis, we couldn't hold support on it. That's going to be the next level to test, around 750,000 to 800,000 Satoshis. Going on through some of the protocols here, I think most of these are quite oversold. We can see Cardano still remaining towards the lows. We talked about Icon back down to where its Binance listing was. Again, this is the levels where we can start to feel that altcoins are relatively low at the moment. We're not seeing any more dramatic drops. We're down towards the big even levels. NIM, for example, we talked about as a recent, is down in my personally, it's in my buy zone. I haven't activated the trade yet. I'm getting close to where I'm going to probably build a position, but I haven't added one yet. I can be completely transparent with you guys. I'm just curious at these levels because this was previous resistance, and it's at now started to begin to act as support. This area started to be the oversold area, in my opinion. RSI is reading oversold. We tend to see when it's in this region on the RSI that we get a bounce every time. We can see over here, that it gets a short-term bounce, and I think we could very well see history repeat itself, no matter if we're going to get a full altcoin cycle like we saw back in December. Going on here to take a look at a few more before we dive on throughout the video. I want to talk about Dash. This has been another one. Again, the large caps are really showing it here. Again, keep pointing this out, guys. So long as it keeps holding this, I'm going to be really, really excited about Dash at these levels. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. Haven't made any trades just yet, but I like that this is holding this historic level of resistance as support. That is extremely important for the future of these currencies, is to make long-term support to show that this can actually hold as a level and it can make larger moves in the future, at least come back up to the highs, which is, I think, what most people want to see for a lot of these. XMR BTC, I don't know why. Oh, I typed in XRM. A little bit of a blooper, but I keep it all in. Keep it all in one video, guys. No editing. Let's go ahead here in XMR. Still same case. We're waiting for this to come down towards around 1,300,000 satoshis. I think you could see it again. I think Bitcoin dominance at this point, with some of these larger caps coming in, someone pointed this out, and it's a very fair point. I think we might see Bitcoin dominance come up to around 55%. If these things can't keep up momentum-wise, they might go up in USD value. But if Bitcoin really gets a bounce off in the next few days, or even a depletion through 6,000, we could see these altcoins come back down and really test some of these levels that we need to see, some of the big even levels or these levels of support in the past. Alrighty, so we've gone through some of these. Again, same case. I know many people usually get mad that I don't cover NEO. Still same thing. I hate to say it, guys, but this needs to come back down. It's continuing to deplete, and we need to get it down at 200,000 satoshis. All right, so getting out of the TA side of things, let's go ahead and talk about this article here about, this is something a person known as Crypto Herpes Cat, not the best name, but I'll go ahead and go along with their anonymous pseudonym. Anyways, basically, this is an article that they recently published, an update on their findings, and this has been going viral on Twitter. Samson Mao from Blockstream has been talking about it. There's been all types of people discussing this, and there's a really big issue going on with Bitmain at the moment. So Bitmain is about to go public. It's about to go on its IPO on Chinese exchanges. And this is going to be one of the largest tech IPOs in history. It's going to be, I think, surpass the initial valuation of Facebook when it hit traditional exchanges. So that's a really big deal here. And a lot of people are concerned looking under the books at some of the public information that we have with Bitmain in regards to the Bitcoin Cash holdings. Now, I don't have the time to completely dissect in this article. I'm going to go ahead and leave it down below for you guys. I'll leave you with the resources so you can look through it for yourself. I think it's a really interesting Medium article that summarizes it. But generally speaking, if you go through, you'll start to see that Bitmain, for the longest period of time, as we know publicly from their Twitter feed and from Jihan Wu and a lot of the other individuals tied to Bitmain and some of the large mining pools, are big fans of Bitcoin Cash. They've been big supporters. They've been vocally supportive of Bitcoin Cash, and not only its moral objectives, but have been showing financial support in regards to swapping a lot of their investments. In fact, there was public records that showed, as we go through the article here, that they've actually swapped out and deduced a lot of their Bitcoin holdings for Bitcoin Cash. And this talks about a question of liability and exposure in regards to switching, from something that was relatively stable and has been, even though it's been depleting in value, much like all cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin has held best comparative to most cryptocurrencies. Plus, it's seen as the top dog. It's the number one cryptocurrency. Switching from their large holdings in Bitcoin into Bitcoin Cash. And this leads towards a very big question. Do they have the stability going into their IPO with having such a large exposure to a secondary version of Bitcoin in regards to market value? I'm not saying Bitcoin Cash is any less than Bitcoin, or that Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin, or Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin. As you all probably know, this isn't a matter of politics here. I'll be fair with you all. I like the idea of increasing block size to 2 megabytes or 4 megabytes. I think it's reasonable, and it should have been done back during December, along with SegWit. That being realized, this isn't the question here. The question is here as to whether or not market value is going to go up. And if they're going into an IPO with such a high initial valuation, could this be an exit for Bitmain? Could this be a way that they're trying to offload equity in their own company with a lot of illiquid assets? There's no buying on Bitcoin Cash right now. As we can see, the price has been depleting relatively well. And I can tell you all, as someone who's relatively in the know on OTC markets, I can't tell you all everything about OTC markets. I don't know everything about them, but I can tell you, I know that there's not much trading for Bitcoin Cash. So that means that Bitmain, who has all this Bitcoin Cash, can't sell it OTC. No one's willing to buy it there. That means they're going to have to sell it on exchanges. They're going to probably have to actually offload some of their holdings. Now, there's word that some of them, they've already offloaded some of their holdings. We don't know exactly yet the whole story. You can go through and look at some of the numbers on the article. But to summarize this, this is the major case here. I love this summary here that kind of talks about it, talking about how, basically speaking, they have a massive liability to the Bitcoin Cash network, not only in its holdings, but providing hashing power. And one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to be a massive and sudden flipping. They're going to have to either market Bitcoin Cash like they did back in October when there was the flash rally to the upside, and sell the idea that this is going to be the proper Bitcoin, or we're going to have to go off the idea that they're going to have to liquidate this Bitcoin Cash, or they're going to be left holding it, and eventually we're going to see a big boost in Bitcoin as that market share comes back into Bitcoin's valuation. So again, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Let me know down in the comments, but for the most part right now, this is a very interesting case. You have to do a lot of undercover research, look at some of the numbers that are out there. And like I said, people have been looking at this for the past few months. This has been something that people have been really digesting into ever since back in October, asking how did we have such a crazy flash rally in Bitcoin Cash, and along with that as well, what are the ties to this currency? Who's really behind it? Who supports it? It's not just people like Roger Ver. There's lots of major people in this space who have financial incentives in regards to Bitcoin Cash. So anyways, going on here, before we dive into some traditional markets, two things I want to talk about. Saw this was really funny. Share on r/Bitcoin. This was at a strip club in Vancouver, Canada. No, you cannot tip with Bitcoin. It'd be nice. That's not my cup of tea. I'm not really big into seeing strippers. I can definitely tell you I've never gone to a strip club, but I can tell you if I was going to, actually, I remember I went to the Netherlands, in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and we went to the red light district, and I had no idea what the red light district was. So as many of you probably know what it is, it's basically a whole area of strippers and I think hookers or whatever in the area. It's legal there. But anyways, everyone was joking like Nick, so what do you think? And I said, well, do they accept crypto? So yes, that's it's not my cup of tea, but that would be nice if they had a little maybe QR code tattooed on them, or maybe they had their phones on them and they could take crypto tips. Who knows? Anyways, going on here, an important point I want to make across to you guys. This is something that just happened to pop up on Zero Hedge. They cover crypto from time to time, and we're going to be going through a few Zero Hedge articles here. Also, as well, sorry, you guys might be hearing some noise outside. They're cutting down a tree that fell over, so I apologize for the background noise, but I'll try to talk over it or move closer to the mic, and my dog's barking as well. But going on here, I really want to point out the importance of crypto scams at the moment. There's scams everywhere in the world. I think it's wrong to just say crypto is prone to being scammy alone comparative to other things, but crypto scams are very frequent because crypto is immutable. It's a very true and transparent feature of cryptocurrencies, and criminals like that because if you send money to someone and that's a mistake, you want to get that money back, there's no way you're getting it, okay? So because of this, you're not getting recompensated unless you want to go buy the currency again. In that case, you're not getting compensated. So this is still a big issue, even in the down market, and I understand a lot of you are very eager to see crypto markets go back up and to make money back on your losses in some cases. But because of this, I understand that people are prone to falling for scams. I've had people in our personal community come to me. We get emails and Telegram messages every single day saying, hey, Nick, I sent you 2 ETH and, yada, yada, whatever. The same story goes. Guys, I'm not, there's no time I'm going to ask you for Ether or Bitcoin. The only place that you can send Bitcoin and ETH that have to do with me is through my public addresses that I have down below in the description. If you guys would like to donate, that's fine. I don't have any programs where I manage your ETH and I give you guaranteed investments. Those are bots, those are scammers, they're rampant in this space, okay? So I just want to reassure that, okay? So you guys probably already know about that for the most part. So let's go ahead and dive in a little bit here to traditional markets. And I'll go ahead and turn my mic exposure down a little bit so you guys don't pick up so much background noise. And I'll move up to the mic here. What I want to spend some time to talk about here is something that's very interesting that's going on in traditional markets at the moment, and that is the case for the Turkish lira. So the Turkish lira is one of many emerging market emerging market currencies that's going through some very serious ordeals at the moment. We've heard about Venezuela, we've heard about Argentina, we've talked about these on the channel here. These are emerging markets that are having some serious issues with their currencies, and Turkey is no exception. Now, the Turkish economy over the past few years has gotten very steady. There's been a lot of investments in infrastructure, jobs. The GDP has been quite well. GDP growth has been quite well in Turkey, but there's been a serious issue with the currency at the moment. To really put this chart in perspective, I understand it starts to look like it's building up momentum to the downside. To explain this and what this means in foreign exchange rates, this is a comparison of the Turkish lira to the dollar. And basically, within a matter of a little over a week, and really over the past 3 days here, the depreciation of the Turkish lira has been so dramatic to whereas basically a few days ago, you would have been able to get 20 US cents, so 1/5 of a dollar, for 1 Turkish dollar. And now you're only going to get 14 cents for a 14 US cents for a Turkish dollar. So to put that really into scale here, to understand what that means in regards to purchasing power towards the dollar, which is seen as a stable world reserve currency, that would pretty much mean that if I originally had somewhere along the lines of, say, $100,000, I've seen basically a 30% depletion. I would pretty much have $700,000 worth of purchasing power than I originally had. And that's not good to see. That's not good because that's something that is very clear to any individual. That means that your purchasing power is depleting on the global stage, and this leads towards prices going up. You start to see the consumer price index. You start to see all these indexes that measure how much people are spending on goods and services start to skyrocket up, and that's understandable because if your currency is worth less, I'm not going to accept something as a merchant that's worth less. And this has been something that's been talked about for a while. We've been seeing the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which had been relatively stagnant and cycling over the past few years, start to really pick up here over the past month in July. And it's only getting worse now in August. And this has been due to the fact of a continued issue here. We've seen that the lira has continued depletion towards the dollar for quite some time, and not this dramatically. And this has been something that Erdogan, who is the prime minister of Turkey, has been saying that the dollar depreciating versus the lira, we'll see the US dollar depreciating versus the lira soon. This has been kind of like a pipe dream for a while, that hopefully we would see the lira pass the dollar. The fact of the matter is, though, is that we're not going to see it, or at least we're not going to see this trend reversal because of the fact of failed monetary policy. If we go through these articles here, we can see that there's been talks of capital controls, that there's been talks of restrictions on foreign exchange markets to try to free the change in rates. And it's a lot of these economic patches that keep getting applied over the currency, these small little band-aids that we try to lay over, saying, oh, you can't, for example, swap the lira with other currencies, pretty much freezing banks from being able to put their risk and exposure in the lira into other assets. They've made it illegal in that case in many cases, or they've set restrictions to where you can only exchange so much. And this leads, hopefully, the objective of this is to stop that dramatic decrease in value compared to the dollar, because people are swapping it out to other things. They're getting exposure maybe in other commodities like gold, or other currencies like the dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen, or the Chinese yuan, because they don't want to be in this currency that's hyperinflating. But not only have they set capital controls and all these things, they're missing the big picture here. They're missing the reason as to why this happened, why the currency itself has seen such a dramatic devaluation. And I want to see if I can find the actual quote here. And they basically said what it was. It was generally along the lines of what we've been talking about, what's happening in the United States as well. I think we've got it here in the second article. This is it right here. This is by one of the individuals at Capstream Capital, Raymond Lee. And I really love this quote. It's short, simple, and to the point here. And it talks about the fact that they promoted short-term growth through too much credit growth at the expense of long-term economic stability. So now they're forced to act. So what does this mean in regards to monetary policy? Well, this is a very similar story to the United States and the kind of boom-bust legacy that the United States has and has led the global economy to. And that is the exposure of too much credit growth. Credit growth is a very fancy term for creation of debt, okay? Creation of new currency. In this case, we've seen the Turkish government have a wonderful set of growth over the past few years, but they've made a serious flaw. They've grown credit too expansively into the economy. Too many people have borrowed. Too many people borrow money that they can't pay back. And because of that, they're now seen to force to act, and they're trying to put band-aid pushes on it, when in reality what they need to do is they need to make it more difficult to borrow money. And how do you do that? You raise interest rates. But so far, Erdogan, the prime minister, does not want to do that, and he has gained more control of the central bank as of recent. But we're starting to see, again, that you can change the face of the currency. You can change all these different forms of managing monetary policy. These fiat currencies have the exact same flaws, okay? When you have centralized control like this that can manage and move money around like it's a toy and go through the tools of monetary policy, we realize that no matter what you do, eventually you're going to end up in the same exact ballpark. If you're changing around the fluctuation of currency and circulation, if you're managing interest rates or you have interest on the base currency, that means that there's always going to be debt that can't be paid. So again, this is a relatively expected case. They're an emerging market. It's pretty understandable as to why this is happening. So along with this is really leading us towards a good question as well. Not only is this a pickly situation because we're not sure if he's actually going to go through and raise interest rates, and if he doesn't, I can only assume that the lira is going to continue to crash towards the dollar and other currencies, and we might really have another Venezuela case or Argentina case on our hands. But much like those other currencies, we can see here that the lira has actually been seeing a massive set of trade volume with Bitcoin over the past 24 hours. In fact, on the largest Turkish exchange, we can see that we have a 130% increase in volume over the past 24 hours. Now, it's only 11.7 million US dollars. Not too much here. That's not too much currency. But at the same time, this is good to see. It shows that people are realizing that Bitcoin, with its supposed excessive volatility compared to some of these currencies, is actually not that bad, because these currencies are devaluating to a very high degree and they're not going up. That's another thing that people need to realize. When people are in these kinds of situations, they don't care so much about volatility. They don't care if their purchasing power is going to drop 4% or rise 7% tomorrow. They're not really too mad about the uncertainty. They're mad that they're seeing it completely depreciate over time, that they've seen over the past few years. They're not stupid. You don't need to be a market economist to realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm losing my purchasing power. That's not good. So people come up to the case eventually, and they start to realize that they're getting screwed over and that the monetary policy isn't working. So it's a very fascinating case here. I hope more wake up to cryptocurrency. I wish that when things like this happen, I wish we would go about trying to, teach people in these countries about cryptocurrencies. Now, there's been other things that have been holding back, obviously, the Turkish government and the Turkish economy. There's been recent tariffs and small things like that. But really, for the most part, guys, it has to do with the flaws in the currency and people reacting swiftly to it when things get bad enough. So, going on here, traditional markets, not too much going on. I've been taking a look at the major indexes. We had a double top the other week, and we've now started the new trade on markets. We're up a little bit today. I think it's going to be a retest of the highs. We'll see if we can get past that on the NASDAQ, continue the rally here. If we can't, if we top up there and come back below the 50-day moving average here, that's where I'm going to get a little bit concerned, but still not going to get dramatically concerned about a full swing pullback until we break not only this line of support, but the 200-day moving average. I think that's going to be the defier there. But again, I've been looking at a lot of the major indexes. We talked about on a video a while back, the home builder ETF, for example, back towards its highs from where we saw it back in 2008. As you can see over here, as well as XLF. None have been making any serious retracement higher, and because of that, I think we're still set. We're still in the overbought zone on the monthly. We're still set for a nice decline. I'm still on the idea that in later part of 2018, early 2019, that's where we're going to start seeing the downturn in markets. Again, haven't been bearish on markets for quite some time because the rules hadn't changed, but they're finally starting to change. We're finally starting to see rates really rise up to some high levels. We're seeing QE end on a global stage, and we're starting to see, again, the only thing that's fueling this market is stock buybacks. When the capital dries up or it gets too expensive, that's when things change. So anyways, I'd like to hear what you all think about everything we talked about today down in the comments down below. What do you all think about the Turkish lira? What do you think about traditional markets? What do you think about the Bitmain case with Bitcoin Cash? And what do you think about cryptocurrency markets? Let me know down in the comments down below. Let's get a discussion going. And again, if you need any of the resources, I'll leave it down in the description down below. But until the next video, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. I apologize for the background noise, but until the next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned.